what would you say makes a connection genuine? Do we have to connect with everyone we work with? And if someone, just doesn't connect with their coworkers, is that okay?
There's different degrees of connection. Not everyone within a company needs to be connected to every single other person.
Yeah.
But
we don't have time for that.
No. But your question about what is genuine to me and the research that I did for my book and my just passion, it's listening twice as much as we talk. When we connect with somebody, let's learn about them. First and foremost is leading with how you can be helpful to others, and the reciprocity will return. But I do believe here the genuineness comes from leading with how you can be supportive of others and meaning it.
Let's be honest. When it comes to a thriving career, we're all still figuring it out. Welcome to the Still at Work podcast. On this show, we take questions about navigating the workplace and work them out together. I'm Kim Taylor, head of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Coursera, and I'm your host. Let's get to work. Hey learners, how are you? We've been together for a few episodes now, and I want to connect with each of you. One way to connect with me, Coursera, and the show is to ask us a question about work. You can submit through the link in our show notes. Another way to connect with us is to follow me and Coursera on social media. Coursera is on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And we also recently created a TikTok. Okay, so if you hadn't guessed it, today's topic is connection. Are you ready for our questions? Drum roll, please. I genuinely want to create a culture of belonging on my team. What practical steps can I take to ensure that every team member feels included and valued? And we have a second question. Working remotely has been great for my work-life balance, but I feel disconnected from my team. How can I build stronger relationships and stay engaged while working from home? With us today to tackle these questions, we have got the serial connector, Susan McPherson. Susan is the founder and CEO of McPherson Strategies, a social impact-based communications consultancy. She's also the author of The Lost Art of Connecting. I'm so excited for Susan to answer these questions, and I've got so many of my own for her.
Connecting has always been my superpower, my beloved passion, and I was fortunate enough to have two parents who were super connectors themselves. So growing up in the 60s and 70s and watching them instilled a real essence and sense of the importance that we are much more powerful together. And when I was 48, I founded my company, McPherson Strategies, and as you mentioned, it's a communications firm focused on social impact. And one of the lessons I learned very quickly into founding this company was all the connections that I made in my 20s, in my 30s, and a good part of my 40s actually came back to support the business. So what that taught me is connections matter. Mm-hmm. It's not just about, networking per se. It's about making impact. It's about making positive change. It's about supporting one another.
Connection is good for us. We need it. We crave it. Have you ever seen that pyramid that outlines what humans need to thrive? It's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The first step is food, water, and shelter, things like that. The second is security, money, and health. But the third thing is belonging and connection. So I asked Susan, what happens when people don't feel included, connected, or that they belong?
I go back to elementary school when the children that were sitting by themselves at lunch and were not connected, or people didn't help them feel connected, generally they weren't as successful students. I mean, granted, that is, I don't have the science to back that up, but my memories back in 1975, and I would go and actually go sit next to them because I never wanted somebody to be alone. I mean, that's just my nature. But when people are not, when they don't feel they belong, they can't be their best selves. They can't, and science does prove that. But I fervently believe it starts at the top of an organization. We can't expect people to feel safe, to feel comfortable, to feel welcome, to feel like they belong, if the people who are in power aren't helping them feel like they belong.
Yeah, for sure. What would you say makes a connection genuine? Do we have to connect with everyone we work with? And if someone, just doesn't connect with their coworkers, is that okay?
My company is virtual first. In fact, we've only been virtual. In 2013, long before the pandemic, when I created the company, granted, we only have 15 employees, but they are as disparate as Ethiopia to Texas. So every single day, myself and my senior team have to do everything we can to help people feel they are connected. Now, there's different degrees of connection. Not everyone within a company needs to be connected to every single other person.
Yeah. We don't have time for that.
No, but your question about what is genuine to me and the research that I did for my book and my just passion, it's making it, listening twice as much as we talk, because Lord knows we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. But when we connect with somebody, let's learn about them. First and foremost is leading with how you can be helpful to others, and the reciprocity will return. But I do believe here the genuineness comes from leading with how you can be supportive of others.
I agree. I hear this theme come up in a lot of my conversations, and now I'm pinpointing it here. There's the concept of curiosity. I think if you are in a team and working with people from different places and spaces, backgrounds, having just a natural curiosity about other people and what they do and where they're from, it does create
vibrance.
Connection, yep, and vibrance and a rich, tapestry that then translates into innovation. And that's why, I will, always talk about how important it is for our teams to be diverse, because all of these diverse minds will create a product that is so much more innovative and reflective of our users, our learners at Coursera, our customers, than if we have people in the room who are all the same.
My parents, again, not to belabor them, but they really instilled in me that notion of curiosity. And my dad was a professor. He taught Russian history, so he used to go to the Soviet Union when I was growing up. And we lived in Romania when I was a child. I was 5 years old, but I taught all the Romanian children, not being able to speak Romanian, of course, this was 1970, how to play jump rope, how to chew gum, all I knew was I wasn't, not that I grew up in Kansas, but the statement, I wasn't in Kansas anymore. I was thriving on the fact that we were all different. And not to make, this isn't about me, but that thirst for learning and understanding people who may be different from yourselves is a magical gift.
My goal is to know people who are different from me and genuinely connect with them. Like many of you, I'm still working my way there. With Susan on the show, I took advantage and asked, how do super connectors start the day?
First thing I do after I brush my teeth, I scan Facebook for birthdays and I wish people happy birthday.
Nice.
If they're really, amazing colleagues or friends, I will then maybe post something on their Instagram wishing happy birthday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then I will text or WhatsApp or email or sometimes call 3 to 5 people with just, I'm thinking of you. There is no rhyme or reason who those 3 to 5 people are. They are just what pops into my brain.
And it's just really quick and simple, like, hey, you're on my mind, and I just wanted to say hi.
Yeah, or thinking of you and sending love, or wishing you a wonderful day or a wonderful weekend, or let's catch up soon, no pressure. I never want to put the onerous, I just want to put out a little sunshine. But when you do this, you can't be doing it to expect feedback. I look at these things like this is the long haul, and I know when I receive these from a friend or a colleague or a family member, it lightens up your day.
Yeah.
It really does.
It really does.
And it's not detractive. In other words, you're not exhausted after you do something like this. You actually get dopamine, which does give you a charge of energy. People listening to this are like, who has time? But I always like, first of all, this is linear. You can do a lot on one day and then nothing for 5 days, right? Like there's no like master clock that's like tick, tick, tick. But you need to do what's right for you and your schedule. The 3 to 5 per day, the birthday could be like make somebody want to throw up. But on the same token, find what works for you and then build it up like a muscle, like a habit. And, over the course of a year, I mean, the beautiful world of connections I have now, I didn't have in my 20s. In fact, in my 30s, when I went to parties, I have no idea what I even talked about.
Yeah, right.
Like I was so boring, right? But I like it. Our bag of tricks grows and gets heavier in some ways, but also we have much more enriching lives because we meet people along the way that are different from us, that are unique from us.
Susan mentioned parties and networking events. I hate networking. It feels so transactional, but I love connecting. If you're at an event, it's hard to just walk up to other people and share your name and title. I want us to be ready to spark deeper conversation. So I asked Susan, how do I go into that first conversation with a goal of impact and connection rather than transaction?
Well, a couple of things. One, not always, but oftentimes we can know who's going to be in the room before we go. So sometimes I suggest doing a little research so that you can find the people that are meaningful to you or, connected to your professional life or, you're fangirling someone or fanguying someone. I mean, there's nothing more lovely than walking up to somebody and saying, I just heard you on a podcast and you're that lady at Coursera and I want to learn, right? I mean, not to be manipulative, but I mean, we all have egos, right? But I do think when you walk in and you don't know people, you can own that and be like, you know what, I'm here. I don't have connections. What was your, goal of attending this event? Again, put it on the other person and have that person. And then, a question I sometimes like to ask is, what's the best thing that happened to you this week? Something that is kind of innocuous, right? Not too personal. But generally people like to talk about good things, right? Or on the other hand, they like to complain. But who wants to start, what was the worst thing that happened this week?
Maybe we work our way up to the worst thing.
Yeah, exactly.
When I was up and coming in my career very early on, I started off mostly cutting my teeth in Washington, D.C. and in corporate America. And, you go out after work, happy hours, networking events, and everyone asked, where do you work? Where did you go to school? Where do you live? And I very quickly started to feel like people are just sizing people up.
Yeah.
It just became like, it was almost like they only wanted to know those 3 things and then, they'd walk away. So I would try to not lead with, where do you work?
How boring.
Where do you live? Where did you go to school? And so I love the question that you said, like, hey, what's the, best thing that happened to you today or this week? And not that there's anything wrong with wanting to know about a person's profession and all of those things. But I think that for me, I just put it on the list of like no-nos to say, like, don't lead with these things all the time. So with that being said, what are on your list of no-nos when it comes to trying to make connections, whether it's introducing yourself to new people or just, being in a team setting at work or personally, going out for a party? Are there no-nos to, making connections?
Don't sit in the side of the room and like hide. And and don't like hang out just with the people you went with unless they're connectors. Okay. If you go to an event with a super connector, you will meet many people. And I will take back, the whole rules because you're going to gain. 2, don't make it about yourself. Okay.
You said that so many times today too. So that's a key point.
Sorry.
No. I'm learning that is a key point. Don't make it about yourself.
You have plenty of time afterwards to, talk about things that you're doing, but really use those 2 years and ask questions and have those questions at the ready, and they can be, again, back to what was your favorite podcast? What are you watching on Netflix? Like, those are like the conversational things.
Yeah, for sure. I have a dream of being a super connector, but that might not be everyone's dream. So are there other superpowers that people can lean on in the connection space, whether at work or outside of work? So I know we've got curiosity, we've got sort of not always making it about yourself.
Gratitude.
Ooh, gratitude. Okay, you want to talk about that a little more?
There's nothing like just saying thank you to your colleagues, right? And again, I want to make sure people don't assume like this is manipulative by saying thank you, you're going to get a thank you. No, I mean, genuinely, oftentimes we're so busy, we don't take the time when somebody it does something exemplary that either one, you give them a shout out, or two, you thank them, because inevitably that's helping the organization, right? And this is like putting the org in front of the me, right? Like the we before the me, and giving them a shout out broadly, whatever the company intranet or Slack channel. And we do every Monday, we do on our weekly meetings shout outs that people give their colleagues. And so it's a form of shout out, but it's also a form of thanking them, because it's helping all of us.
For sure. Any final thoughts on the topic? What do you hope our listeners take away from this episode about the importance of connection and belonging, and specific to the workplace?
It takes all of us, right? You can't just connect with the chair.
Yeah.
So I would ask that readers are receptive to being connected too, right? It has to be a two-way street. But I also I want to remind folks, being in meaningful relationships and having connections with colleagues as well as in our personal life is actually healthy for our longevity, for our sanity, for our mental health.
Yeah, for sure. I watched one of these documentaries about like the blue zones. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's these blue zones are where like people live really, long, healthy lives, longer than, the average person. And I think that was one of the takeaways, the connections that they have with their families, their communities. All of these blue zones, the people that lived in these zones and who were living past 100 years old, I think what most of them are, it came down to healthy lifestyle, walking and eating and wellness. But a part of that wellness piece was these people are connected to their communities, to their families, and that sense of belonging really matters and boosts longevity in life. So I think it's great. It is challenging, as a parent. I watched my son go through the pandemic years, going through 6th grade, those really formative years. And so they got really used to being on, phones or on screens and interacting. And it became really apparent when he was, and hopefully he won't mind me saying this, but when he was graduating from 8th grade, we went to his 8th grade graduation ceremony. And, while we were there were, lots of friends with their parents outside taking pictures. And I'm like, hey, isn't that, such and such? I know, like, you chat with this person a lot. And he's like, oh yeah, that's them. But they never would never go in person to talk to each other. And then as soon as we got in the car to go home, they're like all texting and like talking and, in their group chat. And I realized like, oh my goodness, he's more comfortable, like, talking with his friends online or on the phone or texting than that in-person interaction. It's changed a bit now. He's going to 11th grade. So he's, but that moment in time where they spent, a year, doing school virtually, it really shifted their interactions. And so I think that wellness piece that we link to it, for the younger generations that are up and coming, and then for us as well, connecting with our communities, connecting with our friends and family, finding time to be intentional.
That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
You are welcome. And thank you so much for your insights and your participation today. Again, I encourage listeners to read Susan's book, The Lost Art of Connecting, and then to implement strategies that you've heard today on the show in your workplaces and in your personal lives as well. Okay, learners, I'm still at work on my dream of becoming a super connector. So here's what I heard. Don't make connecting about yourself. Listen twice as much as you talk, and be intentional. Dedicate time each day or week to connecting. Now that you're finished listening, reach out to someone you may not have talked to in a while, or wish someone a happy birthday. Just make sure it's actually their birthday. And go ahead and connect with me and Coursera. We want to know you and we want to help you further your career. Thank you all for joining me on this episode of Still at Work. And thanks especially to Susan for such practical advice on how we can all connect better. Do you have questions about how to navigate your workplace and everything that goes along with that? We can help. Go to the form in our show description to submit your question. While you're there, please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, Still at Work, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also rate and leave our show a review to help others find us. That's it for today's episode. We'll see you soon. Views and opinions expressed during the podcast are those of the individuals expressing them and do not necessarily reflect those of Coursera or Human Group Media.